Welcome to the world of economics. I am your teacher, S.K. Agarwala. Although you have already studied some economics in class 11, but economics in class 11 was more of a descriptive nature rather than theoretical nature. So you are going to study economics theory for the first time in class 12. Before we take up any particular theory, I will like to draw your attention to the scope of economics. By scope of economics, I mean how are the various topics listed in microeconomics of class 12 are related to each other. Basically, a study of economics is simply the analysis of the choice-making behavior. What is choice-making behavior? You have two options, three options, four options. You cannot adopt all the options at the same time. You have to make a choice. What is the best option before you? Why does this problem arise? We will study a little later, but it's basically choice-making behavior, which you study in almost every topic of economics. Now, broadly, economics is divided into two parts, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of an individual unit. Macroeconomics is the study of nation as a whole, country, or the country as a whole. Let me complete it. When we talk of country, although you have studied the meaning of micro and macro in class 10, but there it simply means small and large. In economics, it has a specific meaning. If we talk about the country as a whole, then it is macroeconomics. But if we talk about any individual unit, now that unit may be a consumer, that unit may be a producer, a firm, an industry. So when we talk about this, actually we are studying microeconomics. But when we are talking of things like national income, unemployment problem in the country, inflation in the country, aggregate demand of the country, then actually we are talking of macroeconomics. So basically, your entire economics is divided into two categories, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Although they are distinct studies, yet they are related. Relationship: national income is the total income of the country as a whole of, say, let us say, if we talk about India, 120 crore people, their income is national income, but exactly national income means you will study when you come to this topic of national income. If you talk of income by an individual, how much an individual earns and all that, then you are talking of microeconomics. So basically you see the sum total of microeconomics behavior is the sum total of macroeconomic behavior of the country. So broadly, remember, our economics is divided into microeconomics and macroeconomics, and remember, it is a part of your syllabus also, the distinction between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So we have seen that there are two divisions, broad divisions of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Your syllabus is also divided accordingly. 50 marks worth of microeconomics and 50 marks worth of microeconomics. Now, before we start a particular topic, once again, let us now see the scope of microeconomics as such. In microeconomics, basically, we study equilibrium. Now, this equilibrium may relate to anything. Now, in our class 12 syllabus, basically our concentration is on market equilibrium. Equilibrium can be of anything. Now, first thing, what is equilibrium? This is the term which is frequently used in day-to-day talks. I think a person of any discipline uses this term. Doctors use it, engineers use it, technicians use it. Actually, equilibrium means a balanced situation. If we talk in terms of the common man's language, it is the best situation. So what is best for a consumer? What is best for a consumer is that who is a consumer? A consumer is one who spends his income on the basis of prices and products available in the market. And he tries to maximize the satisfaction by these purchases. Then it is consumer's equilibrium. If we talk of a producer, he or she tries to maximize profits by undertaking a production activity. So the main concentration, main focus of microeconomics in your syllabus is basically on market equilibrium. Now, market equilibrium, what does it mean? The meaning will be clear as we go on further. Market equilibrium is determined by two forces. In fact, any equilibrium is determined by two forces: demand and supply. For example, market for a good is in equilibrium when the demand for that good equals supply of that good. So there are two forces, demand and supply. Let us proceed further. What do we study in demand? The question is, who demands? The answer is consumer demands. Yeah, one who demands goods and services. We call him a consumer. Naturally, we will study about a consumer first. What is consumer's behavior? A consumer behavior has two aspects. One, we have already mentioned, consumer will like to maximize satisfaction from the purchases of goods and services in the market. So one aspect of consumers' behavior is maximization of utility. In the technical language of economics, we call this situation where consumer maximizes satisfaction as consumers' equilibrium. Now remember, in your syllabus, this is one topic about consumer's equilibrium. What are the conditions of consumer's equilibrium? How does consumer attain satisfaction? What are its limitations and all that? The second aspect, we have just said, consumer goes to the market to make purchases. Now remember, you are a consumer. Suppose you go to the market, you want to buy something, and you have a price in your mind. What is that price? This commodity should be available to me, let us say at rupees 100. It should be available. Not that I want to pay 100, it should be available, and you are ready to spend 100. When you go to the market, you find that the price of the commodity is not 100 but 80. In the market, it has come down. Earlier it was 100, now it has come down to 80. But you have gone to the market with the intention that price would be 100 and I will purchase, let us say, 1 kilo of rice, suppose. But when you find that price has fallen, there is a temptation to buy more. If you find the price has risen, instead of 100, the rice is now available for 110, then there is sort of a discouragement in you, and instead of buying, let us say, 1 kilo, you may like to buy 750 gram or 700 grams or some such thing. What we mean to say, what exactly will you behave is a different analysis. But what we want to say is, consumer reacts to change in market price. Market price falls, he reacts. Market price rises, he reacts. So this is second aspect of the consumer's behavior, reaction to change in price. अगर बाजार में कीमत कम ज्यादा होती है तो हर आदमी कुछ ना कुछ सोचता है कि मैं कम खरीदूं, ज्यादा खरीदूं, उतना ही खरीदूं. अब हम इस बात पर नहीं जा रहे हैं कि वो वाकई करेगा क्या, उसके लिए टॉपिक्स हैं, हम उस पर स्टडी करेंगे. Our point of emphasis here is the consumer does react to change in the price in the market, and this reaction, when generalized, now what is the meaning of generalization? When we say generalized, it means what is likely to happen in case of most of the consumers. What is likely to happen in case of most of the consumers? That is generalization. Not that, so for example, price falls. We normally say consumer is likely to buy more, but this may not happen in case of every good. This may not happen in case of every consumer. What we are saying that consumer is likely to buy more, we are simply saying generally it is expected that consumer is like to purchase more. When we arrive at such a generalization, he is likely to buy more, he is likely to buy less, then it becomes a law. Now, law doesn't mean कोई कानून की बात है या कोई जबरदस्ती की बात है. लॉ का मतलब यहां पर सिर्फ इतना है, जनरल बिहेवियर. आमतौर पे कंज्यूमर क्या करता है. आमतौर का मतलब ये नहीं हमेशा नहीं, लेकिन आमतौर पे जनरली what a consumer does. So what a consumer does with respect to change in price is termed as law of demand. So broadly in your syllabus, when we study the demand portion, this is unit number 2. When we study the demand portion of the syllabus, our focus, our concentration, our emphasis is broadly on these two topics. What is the equilibrium of the consumer and what is law of demand? How do they work and all that. There are other topics also related to demand, but they are side topics. The main focus is on these two topics. Let us now come to supply. Who supplies? The producer supplies. Supply means, let us say, selling, manufacturing, everything is included in this, of goods and services. Producer supplies. So naturally, we will study the behavior of the producer. Behavior of the producer. Just like there are two aspects of demand, there are two aspects of behavior of the producer also. One aspect is similar. That was in case of a consumer. Maximization of profits. Consumers' intention was to maximization of utility, maximization of satisfaction. Producer's intention is maximization of profits. So that is one aspect which we will study, and we have just said, when we talk of maximization, we talk of the best, and the best situation for the producer is maximum profits. And we technically, we call this situation as producer's equilibrium. So this is one aspect of study, one focus of study in case of supply. Let us now come to the other side. Just like we had a reaction to change in price by the consumer, remember, producers also react, shopkeepers also react, manufacturers also react. Service sellers also react. If suppose a service provider the service he or she is selling becomes is getting good price in the market, what will be his reaction? His reaction will not be the same as that of a consumer. Somebody is selling commodity X. The price of the commodity X in the market rises. It may rise on account of shortage, it may rise on account of many factors. But let us assume that price rises. So what is likely to be the reaction of the producer? Clearly, rise in price means that he is earning now more profit. Other things remaining the same. Remember, let me introduce this term, other things remaining the same. Whether we state or not, in every topic, when we talk of one change, we always assume other things remaining the same. हमने कहा कीमत बढ़ी, साथ में ये assumption है कि और कुछ नहीं बदला, सिर्फ कीमत बढ़ी. तो suppose price rises, cost remaining the same, producer's profit rises. And when producer's profit rises, what is likely to be the reaction of the producer? Producer is interested in profit, and the producer will like to produce more of the commodity, which is giving him more profit. So price rises, profits rises, therefore producer produces more. Now this becomes a law of supply. But let me remind you, law doesn't mean something strict. Law means general behavior. General behavior of a producer is to supply more when price falls. when price rises. Similarly, if price falls, opposite happens. Now what happens? Price falls, other things remaining the same. His profit falls. Profit falls, he is discouraged to produce that commodity, to sell that commodity, to sell that service. So he will like to shift over to other areas where he can get more profit. So if price falls, the producer is likely to supply less because his profits fall. This is another aspect of the law of supply. So normally, remember, I'm using the term normally. Normally doesn't mean always. Normally this happens. When price in the market rises, producer is likely to supply more. When price falls in the market, producer is likely to supply less. And this generalized behavior of the producer is known as law of supply. This is another topic of study in your syllabus. Now, another question appears. On when a producer produces a commodity, he or she always has a particular price in mind, that I will be satisfied if my product sells for this price. He may get a higher price in the market. He may get a lower price in the market, lower than what he thinks he should get. But every producer has in mind that if I am able to sell my product at this price, suppose the price is rupees 100, that if I am able to sell 100, at 100, I am satisfied. Suppose he sells it at 105, 110, then naturally he is getting profit. Suppose he is able to sell it at 95, he wants to sell at 100, but it is not in his hand. Only market will determine whether he will be able to sell at 95 or whether he will be able to sell at 105. Suppose he is able to sell at 95, then he makes losses. Now, we have just said a producer has a price in mind. अगर मेरा सामान इतने में बिक जाए, मैं satisfied हूं. Satisfied होने का मतलब ये नहीं कि ज्यादा में बिके तो मैं नहीं बेचूंगा. Satisfied होने का मतलब है, so this is sort of a minimum price which he wants, at which he will be satisfied. But how does he decide that minimum price? कि इतने में बेचूंगा, 100 रुपए में बेचूंगा. It is determined by cost of production. हर प्रोड्यूसर की पहले ये इच्छा होती है कि जो मेरी लागत लगी है, कॉस्ट लगी है, वो मुझे वसूल हो जाए, वो मुझे प्राप्त हो जाए. So every producer will like at least to recover what he has spent. Remember, it has lots of implication that spending doesn't mean only cost. In economics, cost also includes some amount of profit, some minimum amount of profit also. That topic we will take up later. But remember, cost doesn't mean cost in economics as such. There are many elements of this which we will discuss when we come to the topic cost. But how much a producer will be willing to supply? Remember, there is a difference between what he will actually supply and what he is willing to supply. He is willing to supply at 100. But if price rises to 105, he may supply more. That is another problem. But how does he decide that I am a producer and I am willing to supply my commodity at rupees 100? How does he decide? He decides on the basis of cost. That at least I must recover my cost. This is a general psychological behavior of every producer. Now, one thing leads to another. We have said supply depends on cost. And cost depends on, you know the answer, inputs. आपने प्रोडक्शन करना है, क्या चाहिए? आपको लैंड चाहिए, जमीन. आपको कैपिटल चाहिए, मशीनें. आपको लेबर चाहिए, मजदूर, वर्कर. वर्कर से मतलब हमारा ऑर्डिनरी मजदूर से नहीं है, ऑफ एनी क्वालिटी. सो व्हेन you produce, you require the land, you require capital. Capital here means machines, etc. You require labor, workers of all categories, from top to bottom. Then you also require an entrepreneur. Who is an entrepreneur? One who collects all these three: landowner, capital owner, labor owner, and organizes the production activity. So the cost incurred on all these four then becomes the cost. So cost is determined by inputs. Now those who produce, they normally discuss among themselves. If I put 3 laborers, I put 1 machine, I put, I have so much of a big factory, and such qualified person who will look after all these things, then I will be able to produce this much in every day, every week, or every month. When we study this relation between what? When we study this relation between inputs and output. What are these inputs? The 4I, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, etc. These are the inputs. If I combine these inputs, I will be able to produce this much. When we study this mathematical relationship between combining of inputs in a particular proportion and the output resulting from it, we call such an equation as production function. The moment you change the proportion, the method changes. See, a commodity X can be produced by many methods. ज़्यादा कैपिटल लगा दो, ज़्यादा लेबर लगा दो, या जमीन है वो ज़्यादा बड़ी कर दो, या बहुत काबिल आदमी उसके ऊपर लगा दो. So it will all depend upon every time you change the proportion, the method of production changes. So basically, cost will be determined by the method of production, and method of production means production function. So production function is your another topic in the syllabus. Now let us go back. Production function determines cost. Cost determines supply. Now, this is how. So your one topic is production function, another topic is cost, another topic is law of supply, another topic is producer's equilibrium, then there is a topic on law of demand, then there is a topic of... Now, once we have studied these separately, let us come back to market equilibrium, because this portion determines supply, this portion determines demand. And when will be the market be in equilibrium? When demand is equal to supply. This is the overall structure of your syllabus.